Hey everyone, it's LS, and this is the patch 14.20 notes rundown here at FlyQuest, and it's a pretty nothing burger patch, and I mean, obviously this is pretty much to be expected, although we do have apparently the Swain changes coming in 14.21. We're just going to get through this because this doesn't really have a whole lot going on with it. So, without further ado, there is the Teemo update, which is just the graphics and everything, so, I mean, take, with it what you will. And then everything else is just, ready check penalty adjustments and then ranked server adjustments with Apex Duo MMR restriction coming back. Ranked ladders will now be updated every 10 minutes, etc. Okay, champions, affiliates. Base health is increased, passive bonus AD is increased, so base health is going up by a flat 20, half an auto attack, and then passive, the Hitman and the Seer, bonus attack damage 4.5 to 27, 2.5 to 30, extremely negligible, does not prevent while you're playing Aphelios, you're not drafting around this, you're not picking around it. Obviously, it's a win rate mover, just because naturally if you play enough games in solo queue over a large enough sample size, there will be eventually enough solo kills that actually are a direct result of this, that in a solo queue environment will ultimately turn into something more. But realistically, it has no competitive effect. It doesn't do anything at a high level because, again, no one in the world, no human is capable of drafting or intentionally playing around a change like this. And then the damage output is actually just so meaningless, at the early ranks that nothing is really happening. And then even at the later stages, when you consider that it goes through resistances, nothing is happening there. Caitlyn. Attack speed ratio is increased. Q secondary target damage is increased as well, 0.61 to 0.625. Q pilt over pacemaker, 50% to 60% of total damage. So the only thing that's interesting here is if this affects her ability to wave clear the backline at X level. Once upon a time, when there was the Lord Dominic's versus Collector fights that used to be happening, there was a unique interaction with Serrated Dirk that obviously going longsword to longsword, eventually picking up Last Whisper, and then sitting on Crit Cloak did not allow you to do, and that was, with Serrated Dirk, there was certain wave clear access that you actually had at a certain point with just queuing the back wave, and you could shove the Spellcaster minions. And even with Collector, because Collector had a higher AD, and it would retain that ability over Lord Dominic's, and so there was that argument to be had. Anyways, Corki. Q mana cost decreased, W damage is increased, E mana cost is decreased, Q posture bomb 88 all ranks to 60 to 80, W Valkyrie 150, 150% AP to 154, 150, plus 150% bonus AD, and then 150% AP. Doesn't really matter. E Gatling gun 50 to 90, 250, 270. So his E doesn't start seeing additional points until later stages, and it's only a 5 difference. And then the Q, this mana stuff is just totally fake. Again, at elite level play, this isn't really doing anything. At super high level play, not really doing anything. And in pro play, not really doing anything. This is not changing anything for Corki. And then at low level play, you shouldn't be playing Corki anyway. So the champions, obviously, his rework is definitely a failure. He needs, obviously, another sort of thing done to him. Well, it's a failure in the sense that they clearly can't figure out what they want to do, and in pro play is obviously a problem. Mundo, E bonus attack damage is increased. E blunt force 2 to 3.4% max health to 2 to 3% max health. Just a random nerf. I'm not going to read too much into it, I guess, at this point in time, just because Season 15 right around the corner. So maybe things end up changing. It does just feel really bad because obviously Mundo needs buffs, not nerfs, in order to start having more, I guess, relevance, or he needs actual changes, right? He needs things that are removed from being skewed towards lower MMR and then buffed towards, high MMR or something. Obviously, maybe something with like Cleaver, his Cleaver being adjusted. Jhin, 4.7 to 4.4. AD growth is decreased by 0.3. Super negligible. Again, same exact thing that I ended up, mentioning above with Aphelios. Our Curtain Call, 64 to 244 plus 25% AD to 64 to 192. So you don't actually start seeing this nerf until rank 2, so level 11. At that point, it's almost not why you're picking Jhin. Most of the reasons for picking Jhin is actually because of his early laning and his ability to transition into mid-late game. And so once you get to that stage, at that point, being eventually nerfed does not actually do anything. And also, this is the minimum damage that is getting getting nerfed. Lee Sin base AD is increased by 3. I don't know how much this actually speeds up his average clear speed. And again, this reminds me of like the bomby stuff that ended up happening with junglers way earlier on in the year, where yes, you can save like 1 to 2 seconds per camp, but is that really gating you from being competitively picked or anything like that? Now with his other ratios and whatnot, he's probably gaining about an auto attack in terms of total damage inside of a full trade with like QQ, E, R, etc., and the autos that he weaves in. So in that regard, or like maybe close to a full auto, right, through like a really extended trade. But more than not, I think that it just probably equates to like half an auto attack, and that's the way to look at it. So it's just sort of a nothing burger. And increases his total DDD, or total damage dealt, sorry, but doesn't really do too much else. Mordekaiser, Q single target bonus damage is decreased. Q obliterate single target damage increase 40 to 60% to 30 to 50%. So he's just getting a 10% flat nerf to his Q, which is actually a really big nerf. I feel bad for Mordekaiser. It says Mordekaiser is one of the biggest top lane winners of the patch and needs to be reined in a bit. His first 3 items are all AP, and he's currently dealing some of the highest damage in the game among top laners, so we're reducing his burst through a nerf to his main damaging ability. So again, just a really random thing. Patches obviously need to settle. Mordekaiser has historically just had a lot of problems, just pretty much across the board. Now, in terms of how much this is actually nerfing, it's probably nerfing anywhere from like half an auto to a full auto to eventually quite a bit of damage, right? Once Mordekaiser has like 2, 3, 4 items, etc. But definitely in the early stages, it kind of doesn't matter. And then obviously it doesn't affect his wave clear because this is only single target. Neela. E-cast time is reduced. E-slipstream 0.01 seconds to instant. Okay. Pantheon, W damage is increased. W shield bolt, 5 to 7% of target's max health, plus 1.5% per 100 AP, plus 0.4 per 100 Pantheon's bonus health, 6 to 8% of the target's maximum health. So just getting a 1% flat maximum HP buff. Okay, so what does this mean, LS? Okay, well, most champions in the game have around 600-ish HP level 1. And then, after a couple of levels, they will go up to around, maybe 900, sometimes 1,000. Okay, so you are, you're getting anywhere from 6 to an extra 10 damage on your W. It has nothing to do with what is preventing Pantheon from being picked. Also, how many times you're actually Wing the opponent inside of laning phase. And then also, in addition to how many times you're Wing the laning phase, how many times is that going through resistances? It's going through resistances a lot. So what you're talking about is a total amount of damage that is probably going to be less than 30 inside of a laning phase. And then you're saying well, actually, no, it's certainly going to be less than 30. You're saying that is why Pantheon's not being picked. Anyways, Poppy. Passive cooldown increased, Q monster damage increased, E damage is increased. Passive Iron Ambassador, 13 to 7 at levels 1 to 13, 16 to 8 at levels 1 to 13. Ultimately, fine. This is really a big nerf for Poppy top lane. In jungle, she doesn't really care too much about this, but for Poppy top and Poppy support, this is actually quite a big nerf. I just don't really know what to say. This is just really big. Support dealing too much damage with her Bloodsong into full tank build, considering she isn't opting into damage items. I just don't know why top lane has to suffer as much as it does. I really don't get that. They could just make her have more scalings on her abilities. That would be obviously the quickest solution to this. They could make her have more scalings. Because when you make her have more scalings, then it requires her to have more items, and obviously support doesn't come by items. So I just don't understand. Now, obviously, support also doesn't come by levels, but this is so extreme in that it's 3 seconds at rank 1, and even at rank 2, it's still 2 seconds. I mean, it's very extreme. Q, Hammer Shock, damage cap versus monsters, 30 to 150, 250 to 170. So I actually mistakenly read this in the PvE patch preview thing where I thought that jungle was actually getting hit harder. But for jungle, this is actually a buff. So this is quite nice for her jungle. And then Heroic Charge, 60 to 140, 50% bonus AD to 50 to 130, plus 50% bonus AD. So just going down by a flat 10 damage, not the end of the world for her. So again, she's losing a very negligible amount. If you're picking her inside of the jungle, then, she's still being picked for the same reason. She's just really getting tagged in support. Ripping Q damage increase. Recommended runes are updated. Damage is going to go from 15 to 95 to 45 to 185, and it's also now going to go from 50 to 70% total AD to 65 to 85% bonus AD. Excellent. So that is what is going on with Riven, and obviously her runes are updated. I think that Riven is obviously in a good state, but the problem is she's so tied to her animation cancels and other things that is going on with her, and knowing how to itemize. I almost feel like a lot of the top Riven players have all actually moved on, or they've moved to other games. Isn't that kind of the case? I mean, there's a couple of them, and then some of them ended up in LCS, obviously Sniper. But for the most part, it actually is sad, because I feel like Riven used to be a champion that had so many OTPs back in the day, and now I feel like there just isn't many of them left. Shyvana, WAP ratio decreased, RE burn damage decreased, RAP ratio is decreased. So when we changed Fierce Sojourn to have less ultimate haste, Shyvana asked, what ultimate haste? So ultimately, it came as no surprise that her core item is now even more her core item. We don't think that it's a problem that she's uniquely situational to ignore ability haste on her ultimate. However, it's a problem that she's overpowered right now. She's incredibly lethal and really evasive, leading to her snowballing and running over games too easily. So we're dropping some of her damage and AP scaling from less meaningful places to get her opponents a fighting chance. W burnout. Movement speed is going to be 30 to 50%, 12% per 100 AP to 30 to 50%, plus 10% per 100 AP. So she's going to lose not quite magical boots on first item completion. E flame breath, dragon form, ground DPS 60 to 120 to 15% bonus AD, 20% AP to 40 to 100. So that's actually quite a big nerf off of that. Everything else is going to remain the same. Our Dragon's Ascent damage is going to be the same base-wise, but it's going to lose 30% AP. So Shyvana actually doesn't get a whole lot of AP, at least not out the gate. Eventually, she'll go up to like 400, right, ish. So she'll lose like 100 damage on the R Dragon's Ascent form. Now, later in the stages of the game, she's not actually hitting this. She's not using it. She's transforming and she's playing as a mage. So this is kind of a nothing burger. Now, in terms of this, she is losing 8% movement speed. But obviously, movement speed has the calculator once you exceed a certain amount. So it's not... these aren't like the worst changes in the world. It's just AP Shyvana is significantly hurt. Singed. Armor growth is decreased by 0.5. It does matter, I guess, to an extent, because of the amount that he proxies, he is losing an amount of HP. So, okay, sure. If he takes enough damage, like half an auto. And it's funny that we're like, we're constantly doing stuff like this. Skarner, passive damage is decreased, E damage is decreased. Interestingly enough, I talked about this with Griffin. Passive threads of vibration, 5 to 11% based on health, to 5 to 9% based on level, to 5 to 11% based on level. Wonderful. So losing 2% of his maximum HP, Skarner ends up hitting anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 HP in the later stages of the game. So ultimately what that means is he's going to be losing 100 to 120-ish max health damage on his passive. That is what he's missing there. E Ixtal's impact, the base damage is going to be the same, but it's going to be 2% less of Skarner's maximum health. So again, he's going to be losing that. So Skarner's losing anywhere from 200 to 240 damage in his combo late game. That is a big amount to just be having ripped from you. Now, is that why Skarner's getting picked? No, absolutely not. Is he still going to be picked? Absolutely. Tristana, E damage, E range is increased, R range is increased, exploitive charge range is going to go down by, or it's going to go up by 25, our buster shot also going up by 25, and yeah, okay, this is just a micro patch, very nice. Tryndamere, okay. Attack speed ratio increased, armor growth is increased. Tryndamere is probably on the cusp of just being able to come back. People are probably going to remember that he exists very, very, very soon, and he will return. Udyr, awakened Q and R damage to monsters decrease. E bonus movement speed is decreased. Wilding Claw, okay. So it's going to go down by a flat 5, and that's pretty much it. E Blazing Stampede is going to go down, or the bonus movement speed is going to go down by a flat 5 at rank 1, and then a flat 10 at maximum rank. Our Windborne Storm, awakened damage is going to go down by 5 to 15 scaling. So very big nerfs actually to Udyr. I think with all changes considered, he's still going to be fine inside of the jungle, although his items also did get indirectly hit, or one of them did. So, I mean, it's sort of whatever. Udyr's still absolutely broken. Veigar W damage has decreased. W Dark Matter, 85 to 305, 70 to 110% AP, to 85 to 305, plus 60 to 100% AP. So this feels really bad because at one point in time, this used to just be a 100% AP ratio. And I specifically remember, I think it was Blaustois back in the day, I asked why Riot didn't do, like, odd scalings that weren't necessarily intuitive, right? With like Veigar Cage and these other types of things. And he said that if I recall correctly, I believe the clip is somewhere still on YouTube. That having non-static things in the game for champions and stuff isn't ideal. I think my suggestion was to have rank 1E be what it is right now, and then have rank 5E be instantaneous, like the very old Veigar, right? That way, skilled and elite players could place the cage in a way to stun, whereas lower MMR would still not be able to aim it properly, their mouse would panic, whatever, and that would be a nice little change. And then obviously his argument was that the speed of the E going from like a wind up to eventually just stunning, wasn't good. I don't know how it's good to have 60 to 100% AP. That just feels weird. Also, I don't even know how you measure that game to game, like intuitively. Yeah, I just don't feel like you can. It's just weird. Yasuo. Q crit damage is increased. R bonus armor penetration on crit is increased. Q still temp is 80 to 90%. Now matches basic attacks. R last breath 50 to 60% bonus armor penetration. So here are the win shitter buffs. Now I know a lot of people are reacting on Reddit. In fact, I actually just made a TikTok about this, or a short, wherever you're gonna end up seeing it. And the thing is that currently at this point in time, they don't actually build crit. And if the argument is that they're eventually now going to be able to build crit when they need it, and their itemization is going to be able to be more versatile and, change depending on game state or other things, sure, that's totally fine. Are they very strong right now? Absolutely. Is this a change that, is going to readily increase them right now? Not particularly. Do I really care? No, not at all. I mean, these are two champions that single-handedly help keep League alive. And in that regard, the reality is that most players can't really play them at a super high level. So there's that. Yone and Yasuo are interesting. Do they actually need to get hit? In some regard, yes. But I think Riot is probably just waiting to determine what is going to happen. The other thing about this is that Season 15 is right around the corner. So we don't know what is going to happen to a lot of champions. And that's also why a lot of this patch stuff is sort of a nothing burger. ADC items, okay. Essence Reaver is going to go down by almost 200 gold. It's going to lose 5 AD, and ability haste is going to go down by 5. I would say that's overall a probable buff for the item because it's more so a utility item than anything else. The Collector is going to go down by 450 gold, and the AD is going to go down by 10. I would say this is a buff for the item. Unfortunately, this means that I'm going to have to start complaining about it again because people aren't going to read patch notes and they don't understand how to do math and practicality on items. And so there are going to be pro players building this godforsaken item again. Static Shiv, 42-35% attack speed. Going down by 5% does just suck, but it's not the reason that you build the item. Yuntal's Wild Arrows is going to go down by 250, AD going to go down by 5, and then Serrated Edge damage is going to go down by 10. Given that it is like a late game item, going down by 250 does feel really bad. And the reason that this happens is because typically Yuntal's Wild Arrows is an item that is going to come in 4th, right? Or even if your argument is that it's coming in like 3rd-ish, but typically 4th. And when it's coming in 4th, cannons reach their maximum gold value at 17:15. So 17 minutes, 15 seconds into the game, a cannon wave gives 192 gold. Cannon waves at that point are spawning every 2 waves. So every single 2 waves, you're getting you're getting 294 gold, right, per minute inside of League of Legends. Now, once the game actually ends up hitting 25 minutes and a cannon wave is spawning every single wave, then you're getting 192 gold plus the time to walk to the minion wave. Minions at that point in time at 25 minutes actually reach their maximum movement speed, and with champions having their tier 2 boots and sometimes movement speed accelerant items, etc., they're also going to just be able to walk up to the minion wave very quick. So you get 192 gold, and then in addition to that, there's the time walking up to the wave, finishing eating the wave, and then recalling, and with all that time considered, you get 250 gold. So you're actually only delayed about 25 seconds in game timer, and so that's ultimately what this changes. So you're trading 25 seconds in game timer in exchange for 5 AD and 10 less damage on the passive. So that's the way to actually read this change, and when you actually do that, it's a nerf. Faded Ashes. Damage per second to monsters. 25 to 20. Leandra is so strong in this patch that it's beating out alternative options, so we need to power it down. Wow, they finally nerfed Faded Ashes, the thing that every single jungler playing AP junglers asked them to do without hitting the main items or the junglers. So now what ended up happening is Riot nerfed all the AP junglers, and now they're finally going to actually hit the problem. Oh, that's fascinating. That's really cool. Okay, cool. That's really awesome. Okay. Leandre's Torment. Damage cap is going to go down by 10. Luden's Companion. Fire damage is going to go up by 15 plus 1% AP. Repeated fire damage, however, is going to go down massively. Storm Surge is going to go from 95 to 90. Squall damage is going to go down by a flat 25. 5% AP. Very big nerf to Storm Surge. Just feels really bad. Thornmail armor is going to go down by 5, but the reflect damage is going to go up early. So if basically you're not Rammus, Malphite, if you're not actually the armor damage dealers, and you end up finishing Bramble Vest into Thornmail because you just don't have better gold accumulation and you can't get a better item, then it's probably going to be a buff for you. But realistically, if you're any of the proper armor stackers and you're against a full AD team composition and Thornmail you want to be an offensive item that reflects magic damage because the enemy team doesn't have MR, then yeah, it's a nerf. Runes. Okay, Phase Rush. Ranged movement speed, 15 to 40% based on level, to 18 to 37.5, just random nerf. Grasp of the Undying is also nerfed. This is also nerfed to Skarner above. Apparently this breaks even at 3,000 max health. Max health per stack, 3.3 and 4 for, melee range, to 5 melee, 3 ranged. So definitely more of a nerf for melee than it is for ranged. So, is what it is. Nimbus Cloak, 12 to 35% to 14 to 40. Just a minor buff for junglers. And that is pretty much it. And then we go into ARAM. And, yeah, that is it, guys. Again, sort of a nothing burger patch, all in all. We do have these, which, there's this skin line, and honestly, it's creeping me out. This also kind of looks like Annie up here. I don't really know. And that is, honestly, we should get a Poro as a playable champion. That's all that I really have to go on with here. This kind of looks like Meg from Family Guy, and this kind of looks like Peter. And then, what would it be? What would a Yasuo Yone patch be if we don't got some skins to sell, We got to keep League alive, guys. Make sure to buy the skin. And then also the anniversary type Sivir skin. I just don't really get how this is going to sell, but honestly, credit to her, dude. She's doing the app workouts. So, that is, that's what's going on here. Sivir is looking absolutely fit here. She is looking absolutely fit. Wonderful. Great skin, great skin. Would I ever play this if I'm playing Sivir? Probably not. It's just a weird skin. I don't even understand how it's like on par or on theme. I feel like there's a million other types of skins that they could have done that would have made sense here. I don't know, man. I don't know. Anyways, that is it. So see you guys in the next one.